In a world of swords and sorcery, Ragnar Brave finds himself buried in paperwork. He furiously scribbles away, frustrated that he must deal with such tedious administrative tasks. Sebas explains that most of the people who once served the estate were killed in battle. His retainer Sebas enters the room. Ragnar desperately pleads for help, but Sebas reminds him that as the new lord, this is now his responsibility. The Brave territory is a harsh frontier teeming with monsters and frequent skirmishes, earning it the grim nickname, the dumping ground from other nobles. Ragnar recalls that his father and brothers were all fierce warriors, making him wonder how anyone in the family managed paperwork. Thanks to his family's nature, he was trained as a warrior from the age of 3, facing down orcs. However, a few months prior, his entire family perished in battle. Now, as the only survivor, he has been burdened with the sudden task of inheriting the entire frontier territory. He laments that he was just the third son who wanted to live freely as an adventurer, not be tied down by such responsibilities. Sebas tells Ragnar that he cannot shirk his responsibilities as he has another duty to fulfill. The territory is rich in resources and monster materials, attracting adventurers and booming business. However, any attempt to develop the mountains would lead to monster raids. Similarly, developing the fields would attract enemy soldiers, leaving them with limited self-sufficiency. Completely dependent on other nobles, Ragnar must attend the academy in the royal capital as the territory's heir. His mission there is to curry favor with the children of other nobles to secure support for his territory. He inwardly questions if he's even capable of such a thing. Ragnar considers refusing to enroll, but Sebas firmly states that it's not possible. Annoyed by the interruption, Ragnar asks what he wants. Sebas explains he has something important to discuss. He addresses him formally as young Master Ragnar, signaling the gravity of the news. Sebas announces that Ragnar has received a marriage proposal. Ragnar questions the sudden proposal, but Sebas assures him it's a common occurrence for a lord. Ragnar remembers that his brothers had fiancées, but they despised the region and refused to live there. He fumes, realizing they didn't even attend the funeral. Sebas confirms that when he delivered the news, they seemed relieved. Ragnar angrily crushes his quill, contemplating murder, but Sebas pleads with him to stop. Thinking about the marriage proposal, Ragnar gives a knowing look to Sebas. Ragnar declares that he'll be living in a dorm at the royal capital. He'll only return during long vacations to manage the territory. Claiming he will be too busy to marry, he asks Sebas to reject the proposal, but the butler refuses, stating it's impossible. Sebas explains that the proposal comes from the Duchy of Oldwood, their most important supplier, shocking Ragnar. Ragnar asks for a reminder of his title, and Sebas confirms he is an earl, but Ragnar stresses the undesirable frontier part of the title. Hearing the name Oldwood makes Ragnar realize that he remembers this world. He recalls that long ago, after an orc attack, his memories of a past life resurfaced. He questions why he had forgotten something so important until this very moment. It all clicks into place. He is a reincarnator. In his past life, he was from a country called Japan, though he can't remember his name. He recognizes that this world is from a game he once played. He has been reincarnated into the world of an automn game, where a commoner protagonist enters an aristocratic school. But he remembers the game's dark turn, where the royal capital becomes a battlefield by the story's end. He recalls the worst part of the game. The villainess, who he remembers constantly getting in his way as a player. Her name was Alicia, daughter of the Oldwood family, a talented and refined lady betrothed to the prince. However, her personality was terrible, sneering at those she deemed commoners. She was incredibly elitist, and with her entourage tormented the protagonist daily, telling her to learn her place. Despite the constant harassment, the protagonist grew closer to the prince. Eventually, a duel was called with the prince as the prize. Alicia suffered a crushing defeat, and her engagement was immediately annulled. Ragnar tries to remember the events that followed her defeat. He recalls that Alicia was forced to take responsibility by being married off to a noble family on the frontier. He has a horrifying realization: the family she was sent to was his own. Ragnar collapses onto his bed in despair. He thinks that living with a woman like her would be the worst. He imagines a hellish life where she would insult him every single day. To make matters worse, he realizes he'll have to go to the academy with her, feeling like his life is over. Sebas informs the despairing young master that she will be arriving soon. Ragnar questions Sebas about the point of bringing a lady groomed for the crown prince into their home. Sebas suggests the purpose is to dispose of her and make an example. He adds cheerfully that the brave territory is known for its high mortality rate, much to Ragnar's annoyance. Sebas points out that every survivor of the war is fighting to keep the brave house alive. Therefore, Ragnar must also step up. Resigned, he agrees. A lone carriage approaches the estate. Ragnar and Sebas stand by, waiting for the arrival. The coachman announces their arrival to his lady. A woman steps out of the carriage. Alicia emerges from the carriage, her expression unreadable as she looks ahead. Ragnar suddenly whacks Sebas, interrupting his formal greeting. Alicia remarks that his reaction to her face is just as she thought it would be. Ragnar asks how she got the burn. He quickly adds that she doesn't have to answer if she doesn't want to. Ragnar smiles and says that an injury like hers is quite normal in the brave territory. His unexpected kindness leaves Alicia stunned. Alicia questions if it's truly normal, and Ragnar confirms it is. He explains that soldiers and adventurers here are always covered in wounds. He internally concludes that her burn must be from the duel. He muses that her ruined face, which would repulse anyone, is perfect for a life of disgrace. A servant addresses Lady Alicia, causing Ragnar to look over. The servant announces her departure, and Ragnar realizes she is completely alone, questioning why a duke's daughter has no maid. The small carriage that brought her departs. Silence hangs between Ragnar and Alicia. Arriving with just a small carriage, one piece of luggage, and no servants was enough for Ragnar to discern her situation. Her expression, which seems to have given up on everything, reminds him of a captured enemy soldier. Sebas gestures for Lady Alicia to follow him. Ragnar thinks to himself that this is not what he expected at all. He had totally thought she'd be acting all high and mighty. Ragnar offers to show her to her room. She gently stops him, asking him to wait a moment. With a swift movement, Ragnar crushes something unseen near Alicia's shoulder. Alicia asks if there was dust on her, apologizing for her old clothes. Ragnar reassures her that his clothes are dustier and hers are fine, leaving her confused. He explains that demon bugs are entities born from grudges that turn into curses, preventing their host from living a happy life. He recalls seeing about 100 of them on Alicia, a representation of the hostility she faces. He remarks that she must have quite a number of enemies. He notes that a normal person would go insane if infested by so many demon bugs, yet she remains calm. He decides to reconsider the situation from a different perspective. Alicia was educated to be a queen, so her starting a duel with a commoner doesn't make sense. He realizes that in this game world, a villain is necessary to keep things exciting, and Alicia's existence was likely distorted for that purpose. It's a world warped for the sake of convenience. He muses that they have both had it tough, being tossed around by fate. As for her story, he knows exactly how it ends. After her engagement ended, Alicia's hatred led her to become a monster, and her subsequent rampage destroyed the entire brave territory. This means she kills him, and his territory is doomed no matter what. He feels that both he and Alicia are being manipulated by fate, and wonders what to do. If things continue on their current path, his territory is doomed. He has a moment of inspiration. He'll help her change her fate and get her life back on track. He decides that if they are doomed either way, it is better to stay positive. And if something bad happens while they are together, a demon bug slides towards Alicia's feet. He can just kill whatever is responsible, crushing the bug under his heel. He turns to a bewildered Alicia and declares that he wants to fight against this world. He smiles and tells her not to worry about it. Stretching confidently, he announces that he'll do his best. She is taken aback by his carefree smile. She wonders when the last time someone smiled at her like that was. As something secretly grows in the villainous heart, she watches him walk away and thinks to herself what an odd person he is. For 5 days, Alicia has been at the brave household, cooped up in her room and speaking to no one. Meanwhile, Ragnar has been occupied with another pressing matter. Ragnar is busy exterminating irritating demon bugs, which can be sent to distant targets using magic. He complains to Sebas about the overwhelming numbers and asks for help. He considers finding their source to end it, but Sebas warns that causing such a commotion would get the house dissolved. Sebas explains that more importantly, they need to do something about Lady Alicia's heart, which is attracting the bugs. Ragnar finds the idea ridiculous, lamenting that the brave family only knows how to fight and that he has no idea how to interact with a girl his age. Sebas simply tells his young master that it will be fine. Suddenly, Ragnar gets a good idea. He goes to Alicia's room and knocks, announcing that breakfast is ready. Remembering the social tea parties at the academy, he decides to imitate one by having breakfast together to increase their connection. When a simple knock gets no response, Ragnar starts pounding on the door, shouting for her to wake up and join him for breakfast. Alicia, already awake, yells back for him to just come in before the door breaks. He sighs, thinking it's been one thing after another as they sit down to eat. Ragnar casually dismisses her concern, saying he is well practiced in repairs, and tells her to enjoy her breakfast and coffee. She quietly takes a sip. The coffee is too bitter and Alicia starts coughing. She apologizes, explaining it's her first time drinking coffee as she usually had tea back home. Ragnar is surprised, then sheepishly explains that tea is too expensive for them to afford. He suggests adding some sugar to make it better. With the added sugar, Alicia finds the coffee sweet and thinks she can drink it now. Ragnar warns her not to have it before bed, or she won't be able to sleep. As they continue their meal, their contrasting manners are on full display, with Ragnar crunching his food loudly while Alicia nibbles delicately. Alicia curiously asks what he is eating. Shocked, she asks if it's poisonous. He reassures her that you get used to it if you eat it from a young age, though the taste leaves much to be desired. Noticing he's doing all the repairs, Alicia asks why he goes out of his way to do it all himself. Ragnar explains that, simply put, they're short-handed. If needed, even the servants will fight, but recently most of them died in battle. His somber explanation leaves Alicia speechless. Ragnar continues, sharing the brave family's philosophy: a defeat without death is not considered a loss. He explains that what they honor most is surviving tenaciously and standing back up. That's why he begins, gently touching her face near her scar. He looks at her intently and says, "Lady Alicia, you are truly a remarkable person." He tells her that in his household they don't deny their scars. If anything, they feel proud of them. He then shows her his own scars, proving his point. Alicia thinks he's too close, but Ragnar explains it's a habit from inspecting soldiers' wounds. He then invites her for a walk. He mentions that although the territory is in disarray, its nature is abundant and beautiful. In the face of nature, he says, human conflicts feel so insignificant. Alicia quietly agrees, thinking they feel so small. After a moment of thought, Alicia agrees to go. She asks him to show her around the land. Ragnar is delighted by her acceptance. An exhausted Alicia mutters that while she did agree to go, no one mentioned it would be a hike this deep into the mountains. Ragnar explains they are in the Udana mountain range, a massive range near the Brave territory that holds rare plants and minerals not found in the capital. Alicia admits she had assumed they'd be looking at local goods in a town. Ragnar clarifies that this is no tourist town, but a rough settlement where adventurers come to hunt monsters. He continues, explaining that the only form of entertainment here is gambling. He's even heard someone once placed a bet on his father dying in battle, though Sebas took care of them. He quickly apologizes, realizing it isn't a story to share with a lady. Alicia, however, tells him it's fine, accepting that this is what's normal here. Ragnar notes that it was the same with the coffee. Ragnar thinks to himself that even in this unfamiliar land, she's trying to adapt. He suggests they take a little break. By a stream, Alicia cups some water and drinks it, sighing in relief and exclaiming that it's delicious. Ragnar explains that the Udana mountain range's high altitude and low evaporation allow for pristine natural water. He tells her that although the land may be fundamentally harsh, learning more about it can make it more bearable. Alicia agrees, saying yes, one must learn about their surroundings. She muses that enemies and allies live on the same earth, so one must never underestimate them, but understand them deeply and prepare. Ragnar recognizes this as the teaching of the Brave family, noting he's heard a similar proverb in a far-off world. Alicia reflects that in this land, people decide everything for themselves based on their own understanding of it, and they all fight for it. Having seen the expressions of the people living here, she realizes it's not the kind of place she heard about in rumors. Alicia thinks about how the people of the Brave territory do not laugh, a decision made after much contemplation. But Ragnar tells her it's okay to laugh about it, since this is a place where people gamble with life and death for entertainment. He then tells her to shake it off and move forward, as their destination is just ahead. Alicia calls for him to wait. Alicia points out the contradiction. He says not to laugh, then tells her to laugh. As they hold hands, she tells him he's a really strange person. Alicia stares in awe, her expression a mixture of shock and wonder. Before them lies a breathtaking panoramic view from the mountaintop, bathed in the light of the sun. Alicia is at a loss for words, simply saying wow. Ragnar tells her this is his favorite place, and while it might be a view like any other, he likes it. He then suggests they have a snack, assuming she's hungry. However, Alicia has something she wants to ask him first. Alicia tells Ragnar it's fine to call her without honorifics. He agrees, saying he's not used to polite language either. Alicia points out that in their territory, such things are a small matter, right? After a moment of hesitation, Ragnar agrees. She finally addresses him simply as Ragnar. Alicia then asks him a serious question. After worrying endlessly, making a decision and accepting the outcome, what would he do if it becomes unavoidable and he ends up regretting it? She wonders if time would solve it, or if that's just a nice-sounding answer. Ragnar responds from his experience in battle: if you choose one side, you lose the other. For the things that were lost, there is nothing that can be done. Alicia then presses him, asking what he would do if there's nothing left. Alicia confesses that she lived her whole life for a single purpose. If she loses that, then there will be nothing left. She cries out that as a duchess she has already died. That's why she came to this forsaken land. Alicia apologizes, calling her remark improper. Ragnar internally struggles, wondering if it's impossible to sever these feelings while cursing the demon bugs. Sebas's past advice echoes in his mind, to face things honestly just as he is and it will be fine. With new resolve, he calls out her name. Looking her directly in the eyes, Ragnar makes a heartfelt vow: I'll protect you from now on always. His sudden declaration leaves Alicia utterly stunned and speechless. He continues, promising that even if the Alicia of the duchy is no more, she is now Alicia of the brave family, and he will protect her no matter what. He then admits he practiced the dashing line, which makes Alicia call him ridiculous. She thinks all that practice was wasted. But a small smile plays on her lips. Alicia admits that while he may have been overthinking things, she doesn't dislike his approach. She finds it straightforward and easy to understand. Her words make Ragnar blush. They make a pinky promise. Alicia asks if he will still protect her even if she returns to the academy with him, where she might be exposed to malice and hostility. Ragnar confidently agrees, saying he's good at dealing with that kind of stuff. Satisfied, he calls out to Onyx, asking if he saw that. Suddenly a colossal black dragon appears before them. Its deep voice rumbles, "That vow, I have witnessed it, Ragnar Brave." Ragnar proudly introduces the dragon as his friend, Onyx. The shock of this revelation is too much for Alicia, who promptly faints. Ragnar rushes to her side, calling her name in alarm as their first date ends with many challenges ahead, and quite a bang. After their date, it seems Ragnar and Alicia have grown closer. Alicia confronts Ragnar about the chaotic state of his room and the shocking events of the previous day. She questions him about the dragon, and he explains he thought it would be romantic to make their vow in front of one. Ragnar calmly explains that Onyx is a dragon living in the nearby mountain range. Alicia is bewildered by his composure, especially since the dragon's blessing has made the demon bugs disappear. Sebas explains that Ragnar earned the dragon's respect after fighting it to a draw, though Ragnar admits he almost died. Ragnar tells a flustered Alicia that it's fine since they were able to negotiate. A maid reassures Lady Alicia that it's okay to be surprised. One of the servants explains that everyone was surprised when they first arrived, but eventually one gets used to it. Alicia quietly observes everyone working together on paperwork. Alicia extends her hand and asks him to lend her the documents. Ragnar sighs, realizing the sheer volume of paperwork will take a significant amount of time. After a moment of hesitation, Ragnar agrees and asks Sebas to bring him the past documents. He immediately notices strange discrepancies in the flow of money from a particular shop. With intense focus, Alicia begins sorting through the mountain of paperwork. The others watch in awe as she works with incredible speed and efficiency, expressing relief that it should be mostly sorted out now. Sebas agrees that she is indeed a talented woman, while Ragnar muses on the lack of basic education in modern times. The servants praise Alicia for her amazing capability. Ragnar watches Alicia's gentle smile, thinking that without the influence of the demon bugs, she's just like a normal girl. Alicia turns to Ragnar and announces her intention to help with the mansion's cleaning next. The servants are utterly shocked by her offer. One of the maids immediately protests, insisting they can't possibly let Lady Alicia do that much work. Alicia calmly insists, stating that as a human servant of the brave family, she wants to experience things she has never done before. The servants try to stop her, pleading for her to wait. Touched, Sebas calls her a good child and encourages Ragnar to also do his best. Sebas reveals he intentionally left this part of the work for his young master, whom Ragnar calls a demon for it. Ragnar has found the source of the financial discrepancy, an unusually high price at a weapon shop. Ragnar realizes that a weapon shop, run by people from the royal capital, opened on the very day Alicia arrived. He notes that their business style is unlikely to make much money here, where weapons are consumables. Sebas suggests their true intention is to keep a watchful eye on Alicia and asks his young master what he will do. Determined, Ragnar decides he will pluck it himself that night. As he heads out, Sebas warns him to be careful, mentioning that there are skilled individuals at the shop, a fact Ragnar confirms he heard from an adventurer. The adventurer explains that he got angry at the shop's arrogant business practices and tried to steal something valuable. He recounts in horror that his right arm was gone before he even realized it, unable to see the sword's movement at all. Ragnar listens intently, understanding that against the rough adventurers of this land, they cut off the man's arm without even drawing a sword. The world is overflowing with magic essence, and those who can manipulate it are called sorcerers. Historically, they were the ones who suffered the most damage in wars when dealing with enemy magicians. Ragnar concludes that their target is Alicia, and they seem intent on erasing her. With a powerful kick, Ragnar bursts through the door of the weapon shop. The startled men inside demand to know who he is. One of them quickly recognizes him as Ragnar Brave. Ragnar coolly reminds them that they were the ones who made the first move. Ragnar offers the men a chance to explain why they are snooping around his territory, promising not to be too harsh. The men sneer and draw their weapons. They mock him for being armed in front of the Lord, which confirms his suspicions. The thugs mock Ragnar, claiming to have no memory of laying a hand on anyone and figure there will be no problem if they silence him. They call him a naive third son for coming alone as they move in to attack. Ragnar effortlessly blocks an attack with his bare arm, shattering the man's sword. With a single powerful punch, he sends the attacker flying. The thugs lie defeated on the floor. A hooded figure emerges, remarking on Ragnar's wonderful strength for a 15-year-old as Ragnar identifies him as the leader. Ragnar identifies the hooded man as the magician, who asks if he can pose one question. The magician asks Ragnar how Miss Alicia is doing. The magician laughs, relishing the thought of the so-called genius prodigy Alicia falling under the influence of his gift. Ragnar's expression hardens as he grips his sword. Realizing this man is the source of all their troubles, he declares, "It's you." Enraged, Ragnar lunges at the magician. He shouts that he's the one who has been sending swarms of demon bugs day after day. Pinning him against the wall, Ragnar tells the cackling magician that he's about to teach him something about the Alicia of now. Ragnar tells the magician that his plans have failed, as Alicia is now loved by everyone, great at her work, and lives freely with a smile. He then unleashes a powerful martial arts move, the praying mantis strike. The magician reels in disbelief, unable to accept that Lady Alicia could be living so happily. The magician screams that he sent his feelings to her every single day as a continuous curse to make her resent everyone around her. Ragnar retorts that he won't let him go and attacks again. The magician laughs, questioning why his blade can't cut him and declaring that anything Ragnar does is useless. Ragnar strikes the magician with the hilt of his sword, declaring the first blow is for the adventurer's arm. He strikes again, this time for the countless pests he kept sending. With the magician subdued, Ragnar offers to spare his life if he reveals who is behind this. The magician reveals that the Duke's family, Ignite, is behind everything. Ragnar thanks him for the information. He then delivers one final blow for all the trouble he caused Alicia. As Ragnar walks away, the defeated magician can only curse him repeatedly. As the magician's curses fade, Ragnar smirks, remarking that he is already cursed. Sebas appears at the doorway, asking if it is over. Ragnar instructs him to clean up the aftermath, which Sebas agrees to. Ragnar asks Sebas a question. He asks if there's a way to keep Alicia close to him when they go to the academy. Sebas misinterprets this, thinking Ragnar means to live under the same roof and get her pregnant, which Ragnar frantically denies. Ragnar clarifies he simply wants to be within range to protect her if something happens, telling Sebas he's counting on him. Ragnar reflects on his actions, wondering if this is the first time he has gone to such lengths since avenging his father. He ponders when his heart stopped feeling anything. As he walks home, he begins to worry about whether he will be able to fit in at the academy. Alicia sits at her desk, having compiled a report, wondering if it's enough information. She makes a mental note to tell Ragnar about the various things she's learned about the academy. As the night deepens, both of them carry feelings for each other in their hearts. A few months later, the day before their departure to the royal capital arrives. Alicia's redirection of her focus from higher education to household chores has transformed her into a truly talented woman. Witnessing her growth and impending departure, the maid River is overcome with emotion, crying out Alicia's name. As Ragnar and Alicia prepare to leave, River dramatically clings to Alicia, begging her not to go. The other servants note the stark difference in treatment, commenting that it's perfectly fine for Lady Alicia to remain while the young master attends the academy. Alicia reassures River, promising that the vegetables they grow at the academy will be sent for everyone at the mansion to eat. One of the maids presents Ragnar with a collar, which makes Alicia wonder what it is. The maid explains it's what he used to wear as a child and that Alicia should use it to reprimand him for any outrageous behavior. As their carriage pulls away, the staff shouts their farewells, reminding Ragnar to eat his vegetables and not to catch a cold. While traveling, Alicia observes with a smile that Ragnar is truly loved by everyone, admitting she's a bit envious. Ragnar reflects on this, realizing it's the first time in his life he has ever traveled outside his own territory. Ragnar fondly recalls the heartfelt goodbyes from everyone at the mansion. As the carriage continues on its long journey, he quietly announces that he is leaving now. The carriage travels through the vast landscape, heading towards the distant capital. As they near their destination, Sebas announces that the royal capital is now visible. Alicia, looking down with a blush, nervously tells Ragnar that she has a pathetic favor to ask of him. Alicia's favor is simple. She asks Ragnar to show her how to buy a ticket when they arrive at the station. She also asks if he could show her how to ride the train. Ragnar, flustered, tells her not to laugh, but Alicia giggles, assuring him she'll take care of it since it's his first outing. Alicia teases Ragnar, noting the capital will be crowded, and jokingly asks if they should put a collar on him to avoid getting lost, but he declines. Looking up at the grand entrance to the city, he is left in awe. They have arrived at the royal capital Ether, a metropolis of over 1 million people, protected by a barrier from an ancient sage. Ragnar observes that with few monsters and no wars, it's no wonder so many people gather here, though Alicia finds it cramped compared to home. Ragnar asks if the dormitory is within the school grounds, and Alicia confirms there are separate dorms for boys and girls, which she looks forward to. Their train journey continues until they finally arrive. They arrive at a shabby, dilapidated building, which Ragnar realizes is their dormitory. He is appalled by its condition and the fact that boys and girls will be living together. He notes its significant distance from the main school campus. Just then, Alicia discovers a letter from Sebas in the mailbox. Sebas explains in the letter that their living situation is a calculated move to appease the nobles who oppose her return. Ragnar sees the bright side, noting that with no one around it's actually convenient, though it will require cleaning. He even considers growing vegetables in the courtyard. Ragnar is shocked to read that Sebas has also left condoms in his room. The letter clarifies that Sebas's main goal was to ensure they lived together. It concludes with a critical instruction: Ragnar must pass the exam to enter the same upper class as Lady Alicia. Ragnar worries about the difficulty of passing the exam. Eternam Academy, where almost all the country's noble children gather, divides its classes by rank. The upper class is reserved for those with a possibility of marriage into royalty, while everyone else is placed in the lower class. There is an exception for commoners with exceptional magic or knowledge who can enroll as descendants of sages. Ragnar finds the system vague, but can already picture the kind of school life they'll have. Despite being just nobles from a remote land and a so-called villainess, his resolve is set. Ragnar declares that if the exam is a contest of skill, he will prove they can win. He heads off to the academy, only to be immediately chided for being late upon his arrival. The teacher scoffs, annoyed that a noble from a remote land has kept an upper-class teacher waiting. Ragnar apologizes, explaining he got lost. The teacher dismisses his excuse, calling him a slowpoke. He instructs him to begin the basic magic test by shooting his maximum output at a target pillar. Ragnar asks if there are any specific requirements for the magic, but the teacher impatiently tells him to just hurry up and do it. The teacher sighs in exasperation. Muttering about his bad luck for being the examiner, Ragnar prepares to cast his spell. The teacher can only utter a stunned "ha" as the force of the spell hits. The blast shatters not only the target, but the entire wall behind it. The teacher stares in disbelief at the gaping hole in the wall. He looks at the destroyed target, utterly confused. He wonders what just happened and who this boy could possibly be. Ragnar calmly asks if he passed the test. The stunned teacher replies that there are more tests. The teacher concedes that Ragnar has some skill in magic, but he declares that unfortunately, Ragnar will never pass this test. He hands Ragnar a wooden sword for the next test. The teacher explains the simple rules. If Ragnar can defeat him, he passes. The teacher adds a crucial rule: magic is prohibited, and if Ragnar can no longer fight, he fails. Ragnar understands and says they should finish this quickly. Enraged by his confidence, the teacher charges forward. He calls Ragnar a barbarian as he attacks. With incredible speed and power, Ragnar effortlessly evades the teacher's attack and strikes him down in a single, decisive move. Ragnar examines his broken wooden sword and discovers the teacher's sword had an iron core. He realizes the teacher intended for him to fail when his normal wooden sword broke. Just as he confronts the man, an unknown voice asks about the commotion. Ragnar is startled by the sudden appearance. The figure in the doorway asks if this was his doing. Ragnar can only stammer in response. It is the school principal, Vorzia Grand Cascade, and this unexpected encounter leaves the outcome hanging in the balance. After a tense moment of scrutiny, the school director, Vorzia, considers his decision. He unexpectedly declares that Ragnar has passed the exam, leaving the young man stunned. A shocked Ragnar thanks him profusely, still questioning if it's really okay. Vorzia explains that he sees little difference in Ragnar's bloodline between the ranks. The director then asks Ragnar if he truly wishes to join the upper class. Ragnar clarifies that it is not the case, that he desperately wants to join. His thoughts trail off as he remembers his real reason for being there, Alicia. Ragnar declares with firm resolve that there is someone here he must protect. The director seems to accept his reasoning. The director formally acknowledges Ragnar's admission into the upper class, but the defeated teacher protests. The teacher argues that Ragnar is from the Forsaken Lands and that his fiancée recently caused an incident. The director furiously berates the teacher, calling him an idiotic fool. The teacher recoils in fear. He reminds the man of his position, stating that a teacher's role is to guide students and show them the way before trouble arises. The terrified teacher can only offer a meek apology. The director informs Ragnar that, as a special exception, he and Alicia are permitted to use their current dormitory, provided they maintain a decent relationship. As Ragnar leaves, he reflects that the director also played a role in helping the protagonist level up in the original story. He finally arrives back at their dorm, announcing his return. Alicia, already dressed in her new school uniform, rushes to greet Ragnar, anxiously asking if he is all right. Flustered by her appearance, Ragnar assures her he is fine. He asks if she was having a fitting for the uniform, adding that it looks cute on her. Ragnar informs Alicia that he passed the exam, mentioning that they certainly put him through the ringer. He steers the conversation to a topic that has been on his mind, asking her to explain the nature of her so-called magic disease. Ragnar finds it difficult to explain, stating that while he can use all the basic types of magic, his true specialty is something else. Before he can finish his explanation, his words are cut short by the loud growling of Alicia's stomach. Mortified, Alicia's face flushes red. She quickly changes the subject, declaring it is time for dinner and that they need to make something nutritious for the busy days ahead at the academy. Alicia asks Ragnar to inform her if any troublesome people appear at the academy, though she reminds him that violence is forbidden. She adds that she can endure any insults directed at her, especially since he is by her side. Ragnar looks at her, realizing that in some ways, Alicia is probably stronger than he is. He reflects that Alicia possesses a rare ability to endure mental pain, a resilience that even seasoned soldiers often lack. He concludes that her strength comes from a deep understanding of who she is. On their first day at the academy, students immediately begin to gossip about Alicia, cruelly remarking that her prospects for marriage are ruined. One student even suggests that with her fallen status, he might be able to make her his concubine. The student who made the offensive comment suddenly collapses, and Alicia immediately tells Ragnar to stop, but he feigns innocence. Internally, Ragnar notes that he only directed a bit of killing intent his way, and recalls that the game's protagonist is destined to awaken as a saint. Ragnar's thoughts turn to the game's protagonist, a beautiful girl he likens to a clear blue sky. He recalls her name, Mariana Ocean. He also remembers a key detail from the game: the sage's most frequently used magic was non-attribute, a skill that required reaching the pinnacle of nothingness to master. In the classroom, a girl with glasses and an expression Ragnar describes as smug like a clear blue sky catches his attention. He recognizes her immediately. It is the heroine of the story. A teacher praises a student for correctly answering a trick question, noting it is as expected of the sage's pupil. The student, introduced as Mariana Ocean, smiles demurely. Ragnar looks on in disbelief, questioning if this is really happening. His glasses slip from his face and crash to the ground. Ragnar is stunned to realize he is in the presence of the heroine of an autumn game and notices his glasses are cracked. Other students gossip, noting this is the fourth time someone has offered to switch seats with her, though she politely declined. They question how someone with her appearance could possibly start a school romance with the prince. Ragnar laments not asking for a seat closer to the front. A classmate kindly offers to switch seats with Ragnar. Though his glasses are cracked, Ragnar politely declines the offer, insisting he'll manage on his own. In another scene, Alicia sternly tells Mariana Ocean that she will be assigned the seat at the front of the podium during the next seat change. Mariana bows and apologizes profusely to the girl she bumped into. Ragnar watches the interaction, murmuring Alicia's name. On a holiday, Ragnar internally questions who Alicia was fighting with. Alicia firmly states that men who bring up the past are no good, though Ragnar feels he can't ask her about it directly. A sudden crash interrupts their conversation. Ragnar is visibly startled by the noise. Alicia cries out as she crashes into an invisible force. Ragnar surveys the damage to the wall, thinking he will have to fix it later. Alicia asks Ragnar what she just ran into, and he explains that it is a hidden barrier. Alicia looks at him in confusion. Ragnar explains that he's using a transparent barrier of the holy attribute, similar to the one protecting the royal capital. Alicia, amazed, asks if he can perform magic without incantations. He clarifies that while most people imagine barriers as simple walls, his magic is more versatile. Ragnar explains that with chantless casting, his barriers are not limited. Alicia watches in astonishment. He demonstrates by shaping the barrier into a pot and pouring coffee, explaining they can be made into all sorts of shapes. Alicia is amazed by the floating cup, exclaiming how cute it is. Ragnar asks if she knows of any other differences between ordinary barriers and the ones in the royal capital. Alicia correctly theorizes that you can choose what to let through the barrier. Ragnar explains that advanced barriers can be freely controlled to decide what to let through and what to repel. Alicia remarks that it seems like it can do anything, but Ragnar clarifies that there are some things it cannot do. He gives an example, stating that it can't separate things that are already blended, like sugar or milk mixed into coffee. Ragnar looks confused by his own explanation. Alicia mentions that they have run out of the coffee beans she brought. Ragnar shyly asks Alicia if she wants to go out with him later. He tells her he knows a place that serves delicious coffee. As they search for the shop, Ragnar asks Alicia where she heard about it. She explains a friend told her, surprising Ragnar, who marvels that she has friends despite her situation. Alicia explains that she became friends with someone in the library who also liked coffee, and that friend told her about this shop. They arrive at a place called the Coffee Specialty Shop Ocean. Ragnar reacts with shock, wondering if it's the place he's thinking of. The bell on the door chimes as they enter. A girl with glasses opens the door and asks if it's Alicia. Ragnar is completely stunned to see her. Mariana explains that she is there and saw Alicia standing outside, making her wonder what was going on. Alicia introduces Ragnar to Mariana, identifying her as the real coffee lover. Ragnar and Mariana exchange greetings. Ragnar asks if they are in the same class, which Mariana confirms, though Alicia adds they've never spoken. Mariana is shocked that someone of nobility is here and wonders why Alicia is with him. Alicia clarifies that Ragnar is also of noble status and is her fiancé. Mariana panics, bowing deeply and apologizing for not recognizing his noble status, calling it an unforgivable offense. She worries she might be executed, but Alicia quickly tells her that won't happen. Ragnar is speechless at the scene unfolding. Ragnar laments how disappointing the main heroine has turned out to be. Mariana apologizes for losing her composure, explaining she was just excited about the possibility of making a new friend. Mariana explains that after seeing Alicia drinking coffee in the library, she mistakenly thought she was a commoner like herself. Ragnar reflects that in this world, coffee is considered a commoner's drink. Mariana adds that she had heard there would be 2 disciples of the sage this year, so she made an assumption. Ragnar is surprised, realizing this is a deviation from the game, and wonders if there is another disciple. Ragnar asks if that's why Alicia was acting alone, and Alicia confirms she didn't know about the commotion he caused. Mariana admits she had no knowledge that such an incident was happening. She explains that on that particular day, she ended up taking the wrong carriage to the academy, realizing her mistake only when she arrived somewhere that wasn't the capital. Ragnar questions why the carriage went somewhere else on the day of an important event, wondering if it was a coincidence. Alicia recalls someone mentioning that Mariana is a genius at magic, but also quite scatterbrained. Mariana proudly declares that she is good at magic, but her parents always said she was useless at everything else. Ragnar cautiously asks about her parents. Mariana calmly states that her parents are dead, having passed away from an illness a year ago. Ragnar immediately apologizes for being so inconsiderate. Mariana tells him it's fine. She adds that she is grateful to her parents for the opportunity she has now. Mariana changes the subject, offering to make coffee for them both since she was the one who invited them. Alicia takes a sip of the coffee and exclaims that it's delicious. Ragnar agrees with Alicia, saying Mariana's coffee is amazing and nothing like his own. Sebastian appears, tasting the coffee and asking Ragnar if the bitterness is a metaphor for his life. Ragnar declares that from now on, he will call Mariana his mentor. Alicia chuckles, telling Mariana that he is just kidding. Mariana finds it strange that although they are nobles, they aren't scary at all. Ragnar asks why she has such a strong aversion to nobles, and she says it's based on a faint memory. She recalls a neighborhood kid telling her something a long time ago. The kid warned her that if you defy the nobles even a little, you will be killed. She recalls that during that same period, she was hit by a noble's carriage. It happened just as the child had warned. The people in the carriage showed no concern for her as they drove away. Mariana explains that after the accident worsened her eyesight, her parents heard coffee could help, so the whole family started drinking it. Before they knew it, the entire family had become coffee fanatics. Alicia confirms that Mariana is good at magic. Mariana affirms this and prepares to reveal her best skill. Mariana reveals her specialty is recovery magic, the power to heal people. Alicia is shocked, exclaiming that healing magic is extremely rare. Ragnar confirms that it is. He recalls that in the game, Saint Mariana's recovery magic was incredibly powerful, able to heal any ailment and even regenerate limbs. Mariana sadly recalls that a year ago, she couldn't help her sick parents, which is why she studied hard to ensure she could save anyone precious to her in the future. Alicia looks on with a pained expression. Moved by her story, Alicia gives Mariana a tight hug. Alicia then looks around and wonders why there are no other customers. Ragnar admits that he was the last one to come in, so he closed the shop after entering. Alicia is shocked by his action. She grabs Ragnar, telling him he's obstructing business and must open the shop immediately. Mariana reassures them it's fine, explaining she has been closing on holidays to focus on her studies. Mariana thanks both Alicia and Ragnar for their visit. Alicia asks Mariana if she is not going to the dormitory, noting that as a sage's child, she likely has exemptions. Mariana replies with a gentle smile that she likes this house. A flashback shows Mariana being told her expenses are covered by dormitory fees, provided she maintains excellent grades. Mariana genuinely offers her support to Alicia for any problems she might face at the academy. Alicia is touched by the offer, saying the words alone are enough and thanks her. Mariana suddenly asks Ragnar to give her Alicia, but he flatly refuses, leaving Alicia confused. As they walk away, Alicia asks Ragnar if he thinks Mariana is a good girl. He remembers that when he first saw Mariana, she had the same eyes as Alicia. He thinks about her beautiful eyes and how she looks straight at him. Ragnar tells Alicia he understands, remarking that people with a strong core turn out that way. Alicia asks if Ragnar has seen someone like that before. He simply replies yes. Ragnar tells Alicia that her eyes hold a strong will that resists fate, calling them beautiful and cute. Alicia blushes at his words, as the two continue their casual flirting. Flustered, she asks if he's playing prince, but he denies being the princely type. But now those two fated girls, Alicia and another, have become friends and have lunch together. Ragnar observes them, noting that harmony among friends is a beautiful thing. Ragnar inwardly questions how the situation could have ended up like this. Elsewhere, a girl with glasses sits alone, wondering where Ragnar has gone, noting that he disappeared right after break time started but always takes his classes seriously. He muses that now that Alicia is with him, someone abandoned in the wasteland, the criticism against her will likely increase. He is fine with being a side character, but he wonders about the strange fate that allows the protagonist and the villainous noblewoman to get along. Ragnar reflects on the original game world where Mariana, a commoner, is enjoying a peaceful school life. In that timeline, it was Alicia who lost the duel and was driven into the frontier territory. He concludes that in this world, Mariana is not the one he must fight. A critical question then arises in his mind: if it wasn't Mariana, then who defeated Alicia? A sudden realization seems to dawn on him. Ragnar recalls that the prince was the one who caused the duel in the first place. Curious about what's happening, he decides to investigate. He peeks around a corner and finds the object of his search, Edward, surrounded by admirers. Edward Gran Etherdam politely declines an invitation for lunch, stating he has a promise with someone else. Ragnar identifies him as Alicia's former fiancé. He recalls that the prince's route was considered the classic one in the game. Ragnar remembers Edward as an easy, tutorial stage opponent. If things were going according to the story, he should be deepening his relationship with the protagonist. Just then, Edward arrives at his meeting, apologizing for being late. The person he is meeting is a girl named Patricia, who tells him she just arrived. Ragnar is shocked, wondering who she is. Edward asks Patricia to call him by his first name instead of his title, and she seems truly honored by the request. Edward reminds her that she called him by his name when they first met in the castle town. Patricia explains she didn't know he was royalty back then, but he insists that it is fate they were reunited at the academy. He wants her specifically to call him by his name. Flustered, Patricia shyly calls him Edward. Watching from a distance, Ragnar finds the entire scene embarrassing. Ragnar is perplexed. There was no character named Patricia in the game. He wonders if she has replaced Mariana. His thoughts are interrupted as another man approaches the couple, calling out to Edward. A group of men suddenly appears, all vying for Patricia's attention and declaring they won't be left behind. Ragnar stares in disbelief, realizing that all of them are romanceable targets from the game. A reverse harem has formed around Patricia, with all the men wanting to have lunch with her. Alicia comments that Patricia must be having a hard time. However, Patricia cheerfully states she is fine and has made extra portions as usual. The fact that this reverse harem is happening means she has triggered all the flags of the romanceable men, a feat nearly impossible on a first playthrough. The men themselves remark on how problematic it is to keep multiple partners, especially since they are all heirs who should have fiancés. Ragnar foresees a grim future, thinking it wouldn't be surprising if someone died mysteriously after graduation. He decides he has no intention of getting involved with the group. However, just as he thought, there is one person that needs to be watched carefully. Jelazic says he prefers eating with everyone to dining in the cafeteria. Ragnar identifies one of the men as Jelazic Gran Ignite, the second son of the Ignite ducal family. He then turns to Patricia, calling her the mysterious girl, and asking if she knows about the magician causing a commotion in the Brave territory. Ragnar tells himself to calm down, knowing that rushing in carelessly is a bad move. He remembers Jelazic as a troublesome character. He was born as insurance for the eldest son, who will inherit the Ignite family. His story route was said to be a dark and heavy one, an effort to rescue Jelazic and others from their complicated family situation. He knows Jelazic is a dangerous man, whose allegiances can change completely depending on one's choices. Given that the Ignite family has targeted him before, Ragnar expected they would cross paths eventually, but they haven't yet. For now, he decides to leave it alone. Ragnar's ultimate goal is to ensure Alicia lives a peaceful life, and to prevent any possible ruin that may come in the future. However, a voice suddenly calls him out, remarking that peeking is not an admirable trait. The person who caught him is the principal. He warns Ragnar that it's dangerous on the roof. He asks what he, Valzir, came here for. Ragnar sees this as the perfect timing to ask something important. He has observed Patricia's unnatural blonde hair, with blackness remaining at the roots. Considering her impossible reverse harem, there's no doubt in his mind about that girl. Ragnar declares his conclusion to the principal: she is a reincarnator just like him. He stands at the center of a distorted fate and asks the principal to tell him everything about the student named Patricia. In a world of swords